Most humble obeisances at the lotus feet of my Diksha and Shiksha Guru, Nitya Lila Pravishto, Vishnupada, Satarasata Sisima, Srila A.C. Bhakti Swami Prabhupada. Then let me offer my humble obeisances unto my first Shiksha Guru, Nitya Lila Pravishto, Vishnupada, Satarasata Sisima, Srila Gauragovinda Goswami Maharaj. Then let me offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my sannyas and Shiksha Guru, Nitya Lila Pravishto, Vishnupada, Satarasata Sisima, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I offer my most humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Sri Rupa Guru Varga, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Prabhupada, and Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur. And I offer my humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis who have attended this Pure Bhakti Academy arranged by Prajanath Prabhu and Jasodanandan Prabhu. Dandavat pranams to one and all. First of all, let me say what a complete privilege it is for me to be here today to speak with all of you. I feel very honored by the opportunity to be able to express some of the knowledge which I have gathered over many years of my life in Sankya philosophy, Bhakti, Ayurveda, etc. I am very humbled by the fact that you are so kind to come and hear what I have to speak about these topics. Thank you very much. Here we see the divine couple, Sri Sri Radha Govinda, dancing in Braj. This is our ultimate goal. The title of this course is Sankya, Ayurveda and Bhakti. Ultimately, Bhakti is the goal. Pure Bhakti, Uttam Bhakti. To be in Braj, serving the divine couple. The path to achieving this is through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Mahavadanaya avatar, whose Audarya has given us Uno Ujjvala Rasa Svabhakti Swayam, which was not yet given by anyone ever before. So our respects also unto Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, here in the Dham in which he immersed himself in Vipralambha Bhav. To His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who delivered this message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by the order of his Guru to every far corner of the world. And here is Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, who, following in the footsteps of his Shiksha Guru, traveled to all the corners of the earth to, again, remind us of what we had forgotten that Prabhupada had given us. So what is Sankya? This is from Srila Prabhupada's commentary on the second chapter, 39th verse of the Bhagavad Gita. According to the Nirukti, or the Vedic dictionary, Sankya means that which describes phenomena, meaning material phenomena, in detail. And Sankya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul. So this is Prabhupada's very practical definition of Sankya. Now, Srila Gurudev, commenting on the same verse, second chapter, 39th verse, in purport, he describes Sankya in a little bit different manner, more poetically, with Sanskrit. That which properly illuminates the nature, tattva, of an object is called Sankya Yoga. Sankya Yoga gives complete knowledge about the Atma, soul, and Anatma, inert matter. So here we see the two explanations by the two acharyas of the meaning of Sankya. So we will be discussing Sankya from Kapila's, Lord Kapila Dev's discussion with his mother Devahuti in the third canto, later in the week. And today we're going to discuss a few other things. Ayurveda. The word Ayurveda is a Sanskrit word meaning knowledge of the science of life. Ayu means life or daily living, and Veda means knowledge or knowing. Ayurveda was first spoken by Lord Brahma after he created the Vedas, the four Vedas, and is considered one of the four Upavedas. There are four Upavedas: Ayurveda, Jyotirveda, Dhanurveda, and Vastu. It was handed down to the rishis like Atreya and Bharadwaj, and to the demigods like Indra and the Ashwini Kumara twins. The Shaktavesh avatar Dhanvantari, after appearing from the ocean of milk, brought the science to earth. Ayurveda is considered by the World Health Organization as a holistic system of medicine that is indigenous to and widely practiced in India. Bhakti Yoga. This is from Srila Gurudev's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, in which he very expertly captured the essence of the commentaries of Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, expressing the penultimate definition of Uttam Bhakti in this verse. The cultivation of activities. This is the 11th verse of the actual Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The cultivation of activities that are meant exclusively for the pleasure of Sri Krishna, or in other words, the uninterrupted flow of service to Sri Krishna, performed through all endeavors of the body, mind, and speech, and through the expression of various spiritual sentiments, or bhavs, which is not covered by jnana, impersonal liberation seeking, and karma, reward seeking activity, and which is devoid of all desires other than the aspiration to bring happiness to Sri Krishna, is called Uttam Bhakti, pure devotional service. So now you have the definitions of the three topics that we're going to discuss. We're going to be discussing Sankya, we're going to be discussing Ayurveda, and we're going to be discussing Bhakti. These are the definitions of these three, and this can help you to have an insight into what we're going to cover over the course of the seminar. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Prabhupada shortens this verse into one sutra. The tendency to give pleasure to Krishna is Bhakti. The tendency to give pleasure to Krishna is Bhakti. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his poem, in his song, Rajendra Sutta, he says that Krishna's sole happiness is to give pleasure to Srimati Radhika. Krishna's sole pleasure. So the tendency to give pleasure to Krishna is Bhakti, and Krishna's sole pleasure is to give happiness to Radha. So Radhadasyam, which was given to us by Srila Prabhupada, by Srila Gurudev, is the beautiful expression of the ultimate meaning of Uttam Bhakti. So the first thing we're going to discuss is some historical, scriptural and scientific information, some archaeological evidence about the ancient nature of Vedic culture, some scriptural evidence about how modern science today is only reflecting what was already expressed thousands of years ago in the ancient Ayurvedic texts. So, and also in the Bhakti text. So we're going to be doing two presentations. This is the first is about Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. Mohenjo-daro and Harappa are ancient cities in what's called the Indus Valley Civilization. And the Indus Valley Civilization covers what you see here: northwestern India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and southern Iran. That was the Indus Valley Civilization. And Mohenjo-daro and Harappa were two of the main cities, major cities, and you'll notice there's a river which is running through there, which doesn't really exist anymore. That's the ancient Saraswati River. And it is believed that when the Saraswati dried up, that the Indus Valley Civilization also dried up, and that's why people left. The Indus Valley Civilization, was uncovered and discovered by the British Archaeological Survey back in 1921, when they did the excavations in this area. And when they were excavating, it was very unusual, because when you go layer by layer down in an archaeological excavation, the civilization usually becomes more primitive. What was happening here is that the civilization was becoming more advanced. And when they saw that, they became alarmed. They thought, what are we uncovering here? This is obviously something, very unique, a unique find. And when they got to the bottom, they uncovered an amazing, group of cities that were very, very well organized, developed, and we're going to show you some pictures and you'll see about it. The carbon dating goes back to approximately 5,000 years. More modern carbon dating and readings of the Vedas by Georg Feuerwith, who was an archaeologist from Germany, and Dr. David Frawley, who was a Vamandev Shastri of the Vedas by Varanasi University, Banaras Hindu University, have uncovered information to show that this is more likely to be about 7,000 years old. We'll also talk about Subhash Kak later on in his discovery of the relationship between the ancient Indus Valley script and Sanskrit. Here's an aerial view of the city. You see the streets there, organized. This is the foundations of the buildings that were there, and it's also the large bathing ghat, public bathing ghat. Here you see, from a side view, Mohenjo-daro. You see the foundations, you see the people walking on the foundations of what were previously the buildings. This is the ancient temple in Mohenjo-daro, which is up on the hill. Later on you'll see how that is situated in relationship to the actual city. These are the granaries. They found barley, wheat, and rice grains in these granaries. So it's understood that they have been eating these grains for thousands of years. This is a more traditional Western-style granary in Harappa, silo. They found wheat and rice grains in this granary as well. Here you see the broad street. That's the large street that was in the middle that divides the residential area from the public buildings area, which the public buildings surrounded the bathing ghat. And you'll see on the right-hand side along the edge is a sewer system. And the white next to it, the black is the actual trowel of the sewer, and the white is the cover. It's actually a covered sewer system. They had covers over the sewers 5,000 years ago. This is a narrow street view in Harappa, and here is an outer passage from a home. Now here's an actual close-up of the bathing ghat, the public bath. You see there's many ways to access it, either by wheel or by steps. And there's the temple in the background and the bathing ghat in the front. You can see that. And this is gives you an idea of how the entire city was set up. Now what you see in the center there is part of the drainage system, the sewage system. Waters would flow. As you see, the earth is pitched to go inside that sewer system. This shows you a little bit about the advancement they had in their civilization, that in different areas they had drainage systems like this, in which all the effluents would go down and then eventually go into those troughs, and I'll show you how that works. Here is a 5,000-year-old toilet. And this is, as you see there in the front, you do your business on the top, and then in the front you pour water, and then on the right you pitch downward. And now you're going to see in the next picture, that toilet's up there in the left-hand corner. It's coming down, and then it comes through a series of drainage systems. And this is a public toilet, which also has a drainage system. And then eventually you see the little drains going into the larger drain, and everything drains into the sewage system. So this is a very advanced civilization. They had a very high level of sanitation, hygiene, well-developed roads and sewer systems, which could rival what we have in modern civilization today. Here you see the Brahma bull with the Indus Valley script along the top. This is a seal, a symbol. On the far right, the script is a U. You see the U there. And you're going to see that U show up again and again and again. The script was taken by Dr. Subhash Kak, who's a computer analyst and a linguist from University in New Orleans. And what he did was he matched up the Sanskrit letters with the Indus Valley script letters, and he found that there is a very compatible relationship between the particular symbols and how often they appear along with the different vowels and consonants. And here you see a unicorn, and this is obviously a royal symbol. Again, you see the U in the middle. You see flags over the top of the unicorn, and you see the umbrella underneath the unicorn's neck. So this is some royal symbol. And the unicorn was obviously considered a royal animal. Here you see a rhinoceros. And again, you see that U up at the top. This is another Indus Valley symbol. And then you see the yogi image of, this is considered the the five-headed Shiva, sitting in a yoga position. You see the different animals, tigers, elephants, buffaloes, cows, and on the bottom, the rat. So you see the different animals that are used in Vedic culture. Now these are all the different symbols. If you look at the one on the bottom lower right, and you look at the designs in that sequence, the one at the very bottom, you'll see designs there that are very similar to some of the Aztec designs in South America, and very familiar kinds of symbols. So there must have been some kind of connection. I don't know if you remember, of course everyone remembers that 2012 end of the world kind of thing. But back in 1986 there was something called the harmonic convergence, in which everything was supposed to be aligned for the 25-year countdown to 2012. And the day that the harmonic convergence appeared astrologically in the Mayan, Aztec, and Hopi calendars, it was Janmashtami in India on the same day. So there is some connection between the ancient calendars. Here you see a contract written in ancient Chinese for grains. So there was trade between the Chinese and the Indus Valley civilization. Also, about 2,500 years ago, before Christ, when Rome was, flourishing, the Roman Empire was flourishing about during that period as it was developing, maybe 2,300 years ago. There was one Roman senator, Pliny, the naturalist, who was a botanist. And he complained in the Roman Senate, it's in the annals of the Roman Senate, that the gold was being drained from the treasury of the Roman treasury and being sent to India to purchase herbs and spices, many of which could be grown in the southern part of Italy, and we could save gold in that way. So we see there was trade between Rome and the ancient Indian civilization and China and the ancient Indian civilization. Here is a deity of a mother goddess, not sure which one, but this is a statue of a royal personage. Here's jewelry. We see that there's semi-precious stones and silver, and here's a necklace. And here's some pottery. In one of the places, in one of the rooms in Mohenjo-daro, they found a number of clay pots. And in the clay pots, they found different herbs. So they could understand it was like some kind of pharmacy. One of the herbs they found was neem. So we know that neem has been used since 5,000 years back in the time of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. And this pot comes from Mohenjo-daro. So yeah, well designed. There's another one. This is another terracotta pot. Both of these are from the finds in Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. And neem has been shown in Germany in clinical studies that it can be useful in curing malaria when chloroquine-resistant forms of malaria and chloroquine-sensitive forms of malaria were not, chloroquine was not useful. Neem came in, killed the malaria. So this, all this information, there's a lot of information about Ayurveda that was given by Will Durant in his book, Our Oriental Heritage, Story of Civilization. It's a many-part series, and this is the many books in that. And the first book is called Our Oriental Heritage. In there he describes how Ayurveda has over 125 surgical instruments and 8 divisions of medicine and different things of that nature, which we're going to discuss and show you in the course of this. Here's a discussion about chemistry in the Sushruta Samhita, and how to take certain well-grown trees in the forest, cut them into logs, pile them in place, and burn them, extract the ashes, and then mix them with lime water and lye, separate the precipitated by filtration. A solution that is concentrated to different extent, boiling, and is possible to get dilute, mild, caustic alkali. So here it gives a description of how to create caustic alkali.
Which is?
Huh?
What is that?
Alkaline is the opposite of
Alkaline substance for, in chemistry, we use alkaline substances for certain chemical reactions and activities. It can be used internally, externally. And then you have in Shushuta Samhita explanation of blood circulation. The very subtle energy from the well-digested food called ratha, the nourisher liquid, is placed in the heart. From the heart to 24 arteries. It satisfies, nourishes, supports, and maintains the entire body day after day, propelled by an unseen act. This is an ancient surgical instrument, not from Mohenjo-daro. This is only from about the 1400s. Plastic surgery of the nose, described in Shushuta Samhita. You'll notice it says 500 BC. It's understood that Shushuta Samhita, the earliest recorded evidence they have of Shushuta Samhita, is 500 BC, or 2,500 years ago. So here it describes how to perform plastic surgery of the nose, much like you would find in a modern medical text, except that instead of using leaves, we use plastic. Here's a description of how to perform intestinal surgery in Shushuta Samhita. How to make a 4-finger wide incision near the navel, then how to take the intestines out, how to extract them, remove the stones, hair, fecal matter, etc. Any blockages, then smear the intestine with honey and clarified butter. So honey and ghee were considered acceptable to be used internally in the body in surgical activities. Place the intestine in the original position and then stitch the external wound.
What was they used for anesthetic?
They would use probably opium. That was what they were using. Then you employ the needle on the left side, leaving out, this is how to remove a kidney stone. Employ the needle on the left side, leaving out only a grain of space. Some say for the convenience of the operation, employ a knife on the right side, leaving out a bladder stone size space. Attempt such that the bladder stone is not broken or powdered. Even if a small quantity of the particle remains, it would again grow. But here you see, in the Shushuta Samhita, the performance of surgical procedures that we only learned how to perform thousands of years later here in the West. So the science of Ayurveda is a great, great science. Here's some drawings based on the descriptions in the Shushuta Samhita of all the ancient surgical instruments. And you see there are forceps and sounds and scalpel and different things that were used. All right, so that's the first one. And now the next one that we're going to do is the development of the child in the womb. This is a very interesting display. It's a photographic review with comparisons of modern medical texts with ancient Ayurvedic medical texts and the traditional Bhakti text of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're going to show you how modern science is describing the development of the child in the womb month by month, and how that matches with the ancient texts in Ayurveda, and how that matches with the ancient Srimad Bhagavatam. A very interesting comparison study shows the connection between the Upavedas and the Vedas. 5,000 years ago, part of India's ancient wisdom traditions included Ayurveda, a medical system that rivals modern medicine. The system flourished simultaneously and synergistically with a scientifically based spiritual culture that revealed the deepest mysteries of the material universe and what lies beyond it. The following presentation gives us a glimpse into one small aspect of India's ancient but modern wisdom traditions. Charak Samhita. The embryo is produced of the soul. Now here you see right away the difference between a modern medical text and the Ayurvedic medical text is that they attribute the development of the embryo and life comes from life, what Prabhupada has always taught us. So this is in ancient Ayurveda. The self of embryo is the internal soul, which is known as Jiva, source of life. The soul is also known as the ever-continuing, devoid of illness, old age, death, and decay. Not subjected to incision, excision, agitation, having universal forms and actions, unmanifest, beginningless, as well as endless and without any transformation. When the combination of sperm, ovum, and soul is implanted in the womb, it is known as the embryo. Now we look at the Bhagavad Gita. For the soul there is never birth nor death, nor having once been, has he ever ceased to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. The soul is indivisible, insoluble, and cannot be burned or dried. He is external, all-pervasive, permanent, non-moving, and ever-existing. He is imperceptible, inconceivable, and being free from the 6 types of transformation, such as birth and death, is immutable. So here you see the explanation in the Gita and the explanation in Charak Samhita are very similar. Same information is being given. So the ancient Ayurvedic texts were based on spiritual principles. The personality of Godhead said, under the supervision of the Supreme Lord and according to the result of his work, the living entity, the soul, is made to enter into the womb of a woman through the particle of male semen to assume a particular type of body. And there are many different ways how the soul enters. When I do a seminar with a PowerPoint presentation on reincarnation, and I go over all the different ways that the soul transmigrates from the lower planets, from the higher planets, through the animals. It's a whole thing that I give. But we're not going to do that here right now. Well, just to give you one example, like from the heavenly planets. When the living entity goes to the heavenly planets, when a soul achieves Swarga. So the heavenly planets is a completely different existence from here. This is Karmastan, so there are rules. Just like we have rules in Bhakti, you're not allowed to have intoxication, you have one spouse, you have no alcohol, no meat, fish, or eggs, etc., etc. There are all kinds of rules that you have to follow. There's no rules in Swarga. Swarga is your vacation. You know, it's like here in this world, you work hard, you put money in the bank, you go to Hawaii, and when you're in Hawaii, there's no rules. You just enjoy yourself, and then when you have to leave, when the money is gone, then you have to leave, and you have to come back to your working existence. So similarly, we collect a certain amount of punya, which allows us to go to heaven for 10 or 20 or 30,000 years, and when we're in heaven, we're just enjoying. It's our vacation. And so there's no rules, you don't get old, you don't get sick, you don't get pregnant, you just, babies manifest, you have relations with any woman or man that you want, there's no rules about relationships or any of these things. It's just a place to enjoy pleasure. You drink somras, which is thousands of times more intoxicating than LSD and all kinds of things like this. So you're there enjoying yourself and you're having a great time, and at some point the flower garland that you wear fades. And when the flower garland fades, that means your time is going to be up real soon. So then what happens is the subtle body is extracted from your heavenly body, and it's placed inside the clouds by Indra. clouds, in the clouds. And then the rain comes down, and the jivas come down in the rain. And then they go inside the grains. And then the man eats the grains. And then the soul comes in the man's semen. And then when he has relations with the woman, the soul goes into the egg, which is what we're going to see. Here's the first picture. If a sperm cell meets and penetrates an egg, it will fertilize it. This is known as conception. Charak Samhita, when there is a cohabitation of a man having undamaged sperm and a woman having undamaged genital tract, ovum, and uterus during the opportune period, then consequently the conscious soul in the sperm, impelled by the mind, descends into the zygote and situated in the uterus, then the embryo is formed. So here you see exactly same description as being given in Charak Samhita. Srimad Bhagavatam, on the first night, the sperm and the ovum mix. Huh? Yeah, okay. After 6 days of fertilization, the embryos implant on the wall of the uterus. Shushuta Samhita. In the first month of gestation, a gelatinous substance is formed. You can see that this is a gelatinous substance in the picture. Srimad Bhagavatam, on the 5th night, the mixture ferments into a bubble. Fetal development at 4 weeks. The structures that eventually form the face and neck are becoming evident. The heart and blood vessels continue to develop, and the lungs, stomach, and liver start to develop. Shushuta Samhita, the molecules of the primary elements, Prithvi, Jala, Agni, Vayu, Akash, or earth, water, fire, air, ether, being acted upon by Kapha, Pitta, and Vata, are condensed. In the course of a month, a head is formed. Fetal development, 8 weeks. Science. The heart, neural tube, arms, legs, liver, and other major organs begin to form. The eye, ears, mouth, bones, fingers, and toes will become present. The brain and cranial nerves begin to form, and the baby's sex organs begin to become visible. Shushuta Samhita. A lump-like appearance of the gelatinous substance indicates the male sex of the embryo. An elongated-like shape denotes that the fetus is a female. But here it's saying, in its own language, what the science is saying, that the sex is being determined by the shape of the fetal tissue. Srimad Bhagavatam, at the end of 2 months, the hands, feet, and other limbs take shape. Very similar, again, to what we see in the scientific explanation. Fetal development, 12 weeks. Development of the heart and the major organs is complete by the end of the 3rd month. Baby's sex organs continue to develop. Still difficult to differentiate gender. Baby's muscles and trunk, limbs, and head are developing. Baby's face is well formed, and their baby looks like a baby. Shushuta Samhita. In the 3rd month, 5 lump-like protuberances appear at the places where the 5 organs, the 2 hands, 2 legs, and the head would be, and the minor limbs and members of the body are formed in the shape of extremely small papillae. Srimad Bhagavatam. By the end of 3 months, the nails, fingers, toes, body hair, bones, and skin appear, as do the organ of generation and other apertures in the body, namely eyes, nostrils, ears, mouth, and anus. So you see, as it's going along, the texts are matching gradually with the scientific explanation. Fetal development, 16 weeks. The eyes can blink, and the heart and blood vessels are fully formed. The fingers and toes should have fingerprints. The baby's digestive system is forming, and the intestines are present. Shushuta Samhita. All the limbs and organs of the body of the embryo become more potent, and the fetus is endowed with consciousness owing to the formation of the heart. Due to the consciousness, the fetus expresses its desires for taste, etc., through the mother. So But here you see, in the science, it's saying the baby's digestive system is forming and the intestines are present. And here you see in Shushuta Samhita, it says that the fetus is expressing its desires for taste through the mother. And this is why the mother starts having unusual tastes and desires. Because the baby's development is based on a combination of many, many things, which I'll discuss later when I talk about the Vata Pitta Kapha and how you develop your Prakruti or your nature at birth. So then I'll explain how that happens through the process of the conjugal act between the mother and father. Srimad Bhagavatam, within 4 months from the date of conception, the seven essential ingredients of the body, which are the 7 tissues, according to Ayurveda, chyle, or the ratha, the nutrient soup, blood, flesh, fat, bone, marrow, and semen come into existence. Fetal development, 20 weeks. The baby weighs about 9 ounces, is at about 6 inches long. The baby can suck a thumb, yawn, stretch, make faces. Soon the mother will feel the baby move. 17 to 19 weeks. Hearing begins. Shushuta Samhita, in the 5th month, the fetus is endowed with mind and wakes up from the sleep of its subconscious existence and becomes active. So here we see, he's hearing now. He's conscious. He's not subconscious. The consciousness has come forward and he's able to hear and he's become active. He stretches, makes faces, yawns.
Clarify. In the Bhakti conception of transmigration,
Yes.
where it's explained to us that the soul transmigrates carried by the subtle body.
Correct.
And yet in here, it's almost implying the mind is arriving later.
No.
Was that different mind?
It just means that the mind becomes awakened.
Okay. So it was already there.
It's there. It's just become awakened.
So it's a translation.
Yeah, this isn't, I just took this out of an Ayurvedic text. Whoever translated it may not have translated it accurately.
It's the word endowed.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of 5 months, hunger and thirst make themselves felt. The baby development, 24 weeks. The baby is developing, it's beginning to create its own antibodies. Oh, the immune system is developing and is beginning to create its own antibodies. He has developed a hand grip reflex and startle reflex. His lungs are beginning to develop and alveoli are forming. He is growing and filling out. He looks more and more like the person he will be when he's born. By the way, in America, you're allowed to perform an abortion up to 24 weeks.
That's really good.
Shushuta Samhita, in the 6th month, intelligence and cognition manifest. See, endowed really means manifest. It's there. It's now manifest. And he becomes cognizant of his situation. The baby becomes more active. The more conscious he becomes, the more active he becomes, realizing he's in this confined space. At the end of 6 months, the fetus enclosed by the amnion begins to move on the right side of the mother's abdomen. That's the Srimad Bhagavatam. Here you see a picture, a surgery at 24 weeks. They did a surgery on this a baby, and here you see the baby. After the surgery was done, he takes his hand and grasps the finger of the surgeon. Can you see the picture? So it shows that the baby is very conscious, very aware. He grasps the hand, he grasps the finger of the surgeon in appreciation of the surgery that was done. Huh?
In fairness, can we say, there's a grasp reflex, which you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
But you're just now adding on the meaning, he's shaking his hand and saying thanks.
Because in the previous in the previous text of the Sushruta Samhita, it says that the intelligence and cognition manifest at 24 weeks. He's cognizant. He's intelligent and he's cognizant.
I think that's not necessarily clear. The baby has intelligence and cognition. Is that enough to say, oh, thanks, doctor?
Yeah.
You know,
On some level, he's shown,
because with newborns, of course, you can play with the grasp reflex.
right, I understand.
There's no sense of...
Yeah,
On some level,
I agree.
it appears that he's expressing
Yeah,
something.
it looks like
He wants to get out.
Yeah, exactly. Get me out of here. Fetal development, 28 weeks. Your baby's eyes are open and he's able to cry. He may be very active now and others may be able to see his movements. He may have hiccups, which will feel like a jumping movement. His body fat increases and his bones are fully developed. Shuddha Samhita, all the limbs and members of its body are more markedly developed. The Oja, Dhatu, the consciousness and the heart of the baby becomes completely awakened. This is where the soul lives, in the area of the heart. Srimad Bhagavatam, thus endowed with the development of consciousness from the 7th month onward, if the child is fortunate, he can remember his past 100 births.
That's fortunate.
Well, you'll see. You're going to see.
You got your birds through.
You're going to see what happens in the last pictures. The development, 32 weeks. The baby is growing and maturing and preparing for life outside the womb. The baby sleeps most of the time now and has periods of REM sleep. Baby is becoming increasingly cramped for space, but he is still very active. Rapid eye movement. Rapid eye movement. Sushruta Samhita. Due to the awakening of consciousness, the baby feeling cramped becomes active in the womb and does not remain silent. Srimad Bhagavatam. The child thus remains just like a bird in a cage without freedom of movement. At that time, as the child remembers all the troubles of his past 100 births, he grieves wretchedly. What is the possibility of peace of mind in that condition? Now you're going to see a picture. You see the baby, he's got his hands, he's praying. The living entity in the frightful condition of life, bound by 7 layers of material ingredients, prays with folded hands appealing to the Lord who has put him in that condition. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:31-11. The human soul says, I take shelter in the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, who appears in his various eternal forms and walks on the surface of the world. I take shelter of him only because he can give me relief from all fear, and from him I have received this conditioned life, which is just befitting my impious activities. I, the pure soul, appearing now bound by my activities and lying in the womb of my mother by the arrangement of Maya. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him who is also here with me, but who is unaffected and changeless. He is unlimited, and he is perceived in the repentant heart. To him I offer my respectful obeisances. I am separated from the Supreme Lord because of my being in this material body, which is made of 5 elements, and therefore my qualities of and senses are being misused, although I am essentially spiritual. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental to material nature and the living entities, because he is devoid of such a material body, and because he is always glorious in his spiritual qualities, I offer my obeisances unto him. So this is the prayer of the soul. You can see the picture in the ultrasound. The baby's got his hands together. He's praying, Krishna, please save me.
How do the atheist examples explain what they say?
About the hands?
Yeah.
Just say it's just... So that's the second presentation. So now we've discussed the ancient civilization and the ancient texts and their relationship to modern science. The next session will start with a discussion of Sankya as the foundation of Ayurveda and the foundation of Bhakti. Sankya from the Srimad Bhagavatam, so we'll start discussing that. So that'll be in the next session. We're now, I think, what time is it? Oh, it's 10 o'clock. I still have 15 minutes. I can answer some questions. Would anybody like to ask any questions? Yes?
How does the Indus Valley civilization relate to the Vedic culture that we know of? Because it's
Well, you see in like the symbols, they have the Brahmin cow. They have some of the other symbols. The Indus Valley script is similar to Sanskrit. You see the picture of Shiva, also of Durga, the statue of Durga. So they were worshiping Shiva and Durga. They were, in Vedic civilization, they were following those things. They had a different language, but that's not any different than, Gujarati or Bengali or Bihari or any of the other languages in which ancient cultures worshipped different devatas in the Vedic culture. So there's a connection between them.
is that where Ayurveda comes from, or how did it? What was the purpose of showing the Indus Valley in relation to the Shankya?
The reason I show the Indus Valley civilization is because of the, first of all, to show archaeological evidence of the ancientness of the Vedic culture, which corresponds with the ancientness of the Vedic, Ayurvedic, and Vedic texts. Okay, the earliest palm leaves that they could find of any Ayurvedic text or Srimad Bhagavatam, etc., is only about 500 BC. But the texts themselves talk about the things being written. If you look at it from the perspective that Vyasadeva took the sound vibration of Sanskrit, because it was an oral tradition up to the time of Vyasa. It was completely an oral tradition. It was spoken. And everyone understood it once, twice, maximum. The disciple remembered the verse and understood the meaning of the verse after one or two recitations of sound. But the mind in Dwapara Yuga and Satya Yuga and Treta Yuga was more responsible as well. In those yugas, if you thought of killing somebody, then you were responsible for killing someone, as if you had done it with your physical body. That's how much control you had over your mind. In Kali Yuga, you don't have that control over your mind. And so, therefore, because your mind is much weaker, the subtle body, the mind and the subtle body is much weaker, he realized, as he wrote in there, Manda Sumanda Matayo, they're very unfortunate, unlucky, lazy, and most of all, constantly disturbed. Therefore, he took the sound vibration, and this is discussed in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, how the sound is made into the alphabet of Sanskrit. And so then you have the physical representation of the sounds of the vowels and consonants in the form of the Sanskrit alphabet. And so then he took that and he wrote the Vedic texts, the 4 Vedas, the 18 Puranas, etc. Then he distributed them to his disciples. Now Ramaharshana, Ugrasena, he was the one who took, Ramaharshana was the one who took the 18 Puranas, okay, and the Mahabharata. And he began the discussion, the teaching, the sages in the forest. Then when Balaram came, he didn't stand up because he was sitting on the Vyasasana. So he thought, I'm sitting on the Vyasasana. All the other sages have stood up for Balaram. But I don't have to stand up because I'm considered the manifestation of God on the Vyasasana. So then Balaram came and took a crucifix and killed Ramaharshana. So when Ramaharshana was killed, the sages said, well, okay, we understand the reason why you killed him, but we gave him benedictions. He would have a long life. He would have excellent health. And he would remember all of the Vedic literatures and be able to expound upon them perfectly so that we can understand them. So Balaram said, okay, I can't bring him back because, you know, he deserves to die for his offense. But his son is here, Sutta Goswami. So Ramaharshana Sutta, which is another name for Sutta Goswami, I'll endow him with all the blessings that you gave to Ramaharshana. Now I'll give them to Sutta Goswami. Then Sutta Goswami went and heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami. Then after he heard from Sukadeva Goswami, he returned to the Namakaranya, to the Yajna, the 1,000-year sacrifice, and began to expound upon Srimad Bhagavatam and the Puranas. Then after his exposition, that was being recorded on maybe, you know, one palm leaf here and one palm leaf there. Then after 1,000 years, the sages went and took some palm leaves and distributed them to some temples. Then some copies were made from there. And some copies were made from there. So the copies that they finally found, the oldest existing copies, which didn't fall apart in terms of palm leaves, are from 500 BC. But they were handed down over the course of the previous 2,500 years through the sacrifice and etc. So that's how we eventually got the palm leaves that we have from 500 BC. They were recorded 5,000 years ago by only one person. You had one. The chances of finding the original one that Vyasa wrote on are probably impossible. But what you found is the copy of the copy of the copy of the copy of the copy. And that's what we have from 500 BC. So I wanted to show with the Indus Valley civilization, there's archaeological evidence. We have an ancient Vedic culture. We have an ancient civilization. Shiva was worshipped. Goddess Durga was worshipped. We have ancient texts in Ayurveda which talk about modern medical science 5,000 years before medical science came about in the West. We have the Srimad Bhagavatam showing us information from modern medical science 5,000 years before the medical science came. So this basically is a setup to say, you know, I use this like at yoga studios and stuff for new people. Here's ancient Vedic culture, and here's the ancient Vedic scriptures, and here's the evidence that they match up with modern science. And that gives people faith for what I'm about to present in terms of Sankya Yoga and Bhakti.
Same source.
Huh?
Same source.
Yeah, same source.
So what you're also saying is that this city is like 7,000, maybe even more.
Yeah.
So therefore, the same text, although it didn't exist on palm leaves, exists orally, so that tradition goes back even further.
I'm not sure. Is it conclusive that there's definitely an ancient, elaborate civilization, but to say it was a Vedic, there's a sort of grey area between saying it was a Vedic civilization and they worship Shiva.
Can you repeat the question?
Well, there is a picture. I showed you the picture of Shiva.
Well, it's a picture of somebody with horns sitting.
Huh?
I mean, it's a picture with some like this sitting there, but there's also similar images.
I'm just repeating what has been expressed by various scholars.
Okay.
According to the various scholars, like Subhash Khat, York Furewith, Dr. David Froley, and others, they say that there's a definitive link between the Indus Valley civilization and the ancient Vedic culture.
I mean, yeah.
So based on I'm just repeating what the scholars have expressed. Now, you know, Prabhupada, Gurudev, they haven't talked about the ancient Indus Valley civilization, but I haven't got much else to show you archaeologically about the evidence of ancient civilization in India than this. Yes?
Two questions. One is this word Hindu is coming from this, and also is that related with the river Sindhu? And how did it cover this civilization? It was like a disaster?
Well, the Sindh River.
Repeat the question.
Yeah, Can you
The
repeat?
question she wants to know about the word Hindu
Yeah.
in relationship to all this. The Sindh River is actually a little further west of the Saraswati, the Sindh River. And in Arabic, you don't say sa, so they say ha. So that's how Sindhu became Hindu, and how it became the Hindus. You won't find the word Hindu in any of the Sanskrit texts. It's Sanatan Dharma is what it is. And that's a Vedic.
But is it connected with this Hindu value? I mean, it sounds like the same word. Hindu.
Indus Valley, yes.
It's the same kind of.
Yeah. No, it's because it was called, it's connected, yeah. That the Indus Valley was connected. Now, the Indus Valley, the name Indus Valley was given by the British. I don't know that it's an ancient explanation from Harappa Mohenjo-daro. They call it the Indus Valley civilization. The British. No one has been able to crack the code on the language. Subhash Kak said that there's some similarities in how many vowels appear in Sanskrit and how many vowels appear in that. Like certain symbols. There are symbols in there that repeat as often as certain vowels and certain consonants in Sanskrit and certain words. And so he says that there must be some connection between the two languages, but he can't decipher it completely.
Marsh,
Yeah.
just to address Alexander's question, I heard that there was some proof of the connection through the existence of the Saraswati River.
Yeah.
The Saraswati River, some archaeological evidence shows that it disexisted a certain number of years ago, and it's mentioned in the ancient texts, and therefore that proves there must be a connection.
That's what Dr. David Frawley,
Right.
that's where he according to archaeologists, that river dried up at a certain point.
Yeah.
And so they were saying that the river must have dried up. That's why the people abandoned the civilization, because there wasn't any water. You haven't got water, you haven't got a city. And so he found evidence in I think the Rig Veda, which shows how old that river is, and when it
If the
dried
Rig
up.
Veda is referring to the Saraswati River,
Yeah.
then the Rig Veda must be related to that civilization.
Exactly. Well, this is the conclusion of Georg Fairwith and David Frawley and Subhash Kak. Yeah. Yes.
I've heard that Vyasadeva is a literary incarnation of Krishna.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
That's brilliant.
And he still exists. He's in the Himalayas. Still there. Well, the story is that when Madhvacharya went with his disciple to the Himalayas, and he told his disciple, "I'm going to see Vyas." And his disciple said, "I want to accompany you." He said, "You can't follow me." He said, "Why not?" And he didn't say anything else, and then he started to walk, and his legs stretched from one mountaintop to another. So he was going mountaintop to mountaintop. So in 4 strides, he was like 4 mountains away. And the disciple, there's no way the disciple could follow him to that place. Prabhupada once said that there's areas of the Himalayas that we can't even see. They're in another dimension. And he said in that area, there's one Himalayan mountain which is made of solid gold. He said if the materialists would figure out how to find it, they would go mad. Yes, Kishore.
I just wanted to mention in terms of the Indus Valley and the civilization that
Yeah.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions in his introduction to Krishna Samhita about the original settlers, the Aryans, and how they were descendants from the Devas,
Yeah.
and how they actually populated that Indus Valley originally. So that culture is actually coming from the Devas, and those children, then began to populate from there as the cradle of civilization. It's a different version of the cradle of
Can you
civilization.
repeat that one?
He's explaining, Kishore Mohan, that in one book, Krishna Samhita, Srila Bhakti Thakur writes that the Devas descended from the higher planetary systems and populated the Indus Valley in human form and gave birth to the human civilization as the cradle of civilization there in the Indus Valley. So that answers your question. Doesn't? Not satisfied? Okay, no problem. I don't like to argue with Bhakti Thakur, but if you want to, you can. So, yes, Sita.
Marge, the timelines have always been a little confusing to me because this civilization is like 7,000 years old.
Yeah.
But also we know that Krishna was on this planet 5,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So we can extrapolate that this is like how, you know, like was the continents different at the time of Krishna? Like I always thought that the continents changed when the yugas became Kali Yugas.
To some degree, yes, they changed.
Yeah.
Also, if you look at, it doesn't mean that Krishna didn't go in every part of India, so he may not have gone up to the Indus Valley. We have no evidence of that.
The Pandavas' horses traveled.
The Pandavas and the kings traveled, and they went to different parts of the world, and they conquered the different areas of the world. But that doesn't mean, you know, if you read the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Mahabharata, it explains about that. But that doesn't mean that the people in the Indus Valley civilization necessarily connected with Krishna when he was on the planet. He was in Vrindavan, Dwarka, Mathura. Those were the places he was in.
Yeah, but also like the size scale, you know, because in Dwapara Yuga, then people were so much bigger. You know, they're much bigger. But this scale of these towns, it looks like, you know, normal size, like Kali Yuga sized people. Yeah.
I don't have an answer.
It's a good point.
Anybody else?
No, it's a good point.
Yes.
Well, they've done excavations of Dwarka and stuff like that, and they have a whole city just off the coast, exactly where it's described to
Yeah,
be.
I couldn't get very good photographs of that though. I tried to get photographs of that. I wanted to do Dwarka, but I couldn't get the photographs of it. Not very good ones, at least. It was just very cloudy. It was like a lot of cloudy water and like one brick. You know, it wasn't a lot to show. So I opted for this because it's more visual. Yes. Anybody else?
Was he going to say something about the size of the people? Were you going to say something else about Dwarka? Did you have anything else to say about Dwarka?
No.
Oh my God.
Oh,